go into the settings. Maybe I can turn the sound up slightly. Menu volume off. All right, I think I'll leave it there. Because then you can barely hear it, and hopefully that won't be... No, you know what? I got to turn it off. Because I thought about that. Because for what I'm talking about... I don't want any music in the background and run the risk of this video getting hit with a copyright. And then it runs the risk of getting blocked. But in any case, what is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the Ageless Wonder, the man Lincoln Clay, coming at you with another live stream. I don't exactly do podcasts the way I used to, where I would just sit at a computer and talk. I guess whatever I'm talking about, I kind of want to play that and kind of help set the mood. JD Max, what is good? I do want to talk about. Let's see, Will Clark, what happened to your PS5, bruh? Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. So, for those of you who've been following me, as you can see right here, I'm playing GT Sport right now. And for those of you who've been following me, know that I'm looking forward to playing GT7 fully playable in VR. And that was the reason that I bought a PS5. I've said this ad nauseum, that's like 95% of the reason why I bought a PS5. So already knew that kind of when I bought the PS5, I kind of knew it wasn't going to get much use until PSVR 2 comes along. I already knew that my PS5 wasn't going to get much use. But it's getting to the point now where I look at my PS5 and sometimes I think about selling it. So, you know, we'll talk about the PS5 being useless relative to PSVR, relative to GT7. So, where do I go? Well, you know, I'll start with Sony said that PSVR 2 pretty much will come holiday 2022. To me, I take that as Christmas. I take that as December 2022. That's a whole year away. There was a part of me that was hoping that Sony was just, you know, trying to throw like these so-called insiders that's spilling out information to the media. I was hoping that Sony had said Christmas of, you know, holidays of 2022 to throw those people off. And I was hoping that we would see PSVR 2 maybe around, you know, summer of 2022. And then you have people like Brian Paul, of PSVR Parole. PSVR without parole. I will go ahead and use his name because I guess he's got sources. They speculated that PSVR 2 might get shown at the Game Awards because that would be the perfect place to do it because the entire gaming world would see it versus where if Sony were to do one of their own events, only the PlayStation people would see it. So that made a lot of sense. And then they speculated, as well as rumors, that PSVR 2 would come out in March, which also made a lot of sense because GT7 comes out March 4th, and Grand Theft Auto 4K 60 frames per second comes out in March also. And us in the VR community, oh boy. Let me shut this off because I don't want to talk over this. Let me shut that off so I don't want to talk over that. I think I speak for the VR community that we pretty much figured it was going to be a given that Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to come to PlayStation VR 2. Because to me, it would be idiotic if it didn't. Will Clark, no, PSVR 2 will have a holiday launch. So it's starting to look that way now, but it seemed like it would make sense that it would come out in March when you have, again, GT7 launching in March, and then you have, another version of GTA 5 coming out. And then not only that, I've already mentioned in the past that Rockstar was watching the VR landscape because I think it was Luke Ross who did the VR mod for the PC version of Grand Theft Auto 5. And obviously Rockstar didn't have a problem with that because right when he came out with that mod, Grand Theft Auto 5 all of a sudden popped up at Steam on sale for $15. So when I saw that, the first thing popped in my head, I said I will not be surprised if Grand Theft Auto 5 comes to PSVR 2. JD Max, it said the way they did GT Sport dirty when it came to bending the truth about the VR content, I'm not getting my hopes up. True. But I'm not going to totally blame that on Polyphony Digital because you also have to keep in mind that Sony wanted parity across the board because I've talked about this before, that supposedly GT Sport, they've had the VR multiplayer running on the PS4 Pro. But Sony decided against that because they wanted parity across the board and did not want to separate the communities because the PS4 vanilla couldn't do it. So... and that's why we got the crap VR that we have on GT Sport. Let me see if I can go back to some of these. Remember when every PSVR waited a few hours for the demo? Yeah, true. Let me see here. They would have already shown the headset and games by now. If it was early 2022, it will have its reveal in March and be out in November. That's the way it's starting to look right now. So that means I gotta basically wait a whole nother year. So because of that, my PS5 is useless. I don't really play flat screen games. I pretty much only play PSVR games, and I kept my PS4 Pro for the purpose of playing VR games on it. And it would be easy to say, well, why don't you sell your PS4 Pro and play your VR games on the PS5 since it's backwards compatible? Well, that's because there's like 6 or 7 games, VR games, that will not work on PS5. I can't remember which games they were. But they weren't games that I was worried about. But there were some VR games that do not run good on the PS5, but they ran good on the PS4 Pro. And that was one of the reasons why I kept my PS4 Pro, because I think the VR games are more native to the PS4 and therefore are going to run better on it. And not only that, space was an issue. On the PS5, a lot of these games started out with huge files, anywhere from 60 to 100 gigs, depending on what game it was. So I also needed to conserve space, and that was another reason why I kept my PS4 Pro. So because of that, my PS5 is virtually useless. Since I don't play any flat screen games, I don't really play any flat screen games. My PS5 is not getting any use because I pretty much play my flat screen games over here on the PS4 Pro. I totally understand your issue, Lincoln, and it would be reasonable to sell the console now and get it next year. See, the reason why I will not sell it, Will, is because of this semiconductor shortage that we're dealing with, not to mention the shipping crisis, which I think has been fabricated by the American government. I think this shipping crisis is fake. I think the American government jammed up the ships over in the Los Angeles harbor to jam up the supply chain and drive up prices. So and the scalpers are still getting their hands on the PS5. So the PS5 is still hard to get. If I could just walk into a store and a PS5 was on a shelf, I would have sold it. That's not the case. Because of the shipping crisis, because of the semiconductor shortage, because of the scalpers, I don't think PS5 is going to be any easier to get next year. I think going right into summer of 2022, the PS5 is still going to be just as hard to get as it is now. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm stuck with a paperweight until PSVR 2 comes out. So now, let's talk about my concerns about GT7 relative to PSVR. I've talked about some of the things that I was excited about. Now it's time to talk about some of the things that I'm concerned about. GT7 comes out in March. Sony, a while back, Sony talked about leaving the PS4 behind. They talked about how they wanted as many people as possible to transition over to the PS5 as quickly as possible. And if a PS5 to advance, it's going to be necessary to leave the PS4 behind. And then now these major titles come out, and then we find out they're going to be on the PS4 as well. You know, GT7, Horizon Zero, Horizon Forbidden West, Miles Morales. Now they're all, got coming on the PS4 too. Let's see here. Ain't no damn shipping crisis anymore. The harbors are clear. It's the chip shortage. Automobiles are getting first dibs. Well, this shipping crisis, I haven't looked into it lately, but on Thanksgiving, the email that I got from Fanatec let me know that my CSL DD had been delayed until January 3rd. According to them, the ship that it was sitting on was still stuck in China and wouldn't be here until January 3rd. If anybody's watching this, a moderator, could they please block that Catherine Manning? Because I've been getting this lately with bots coming in trying to advertise porn sites and all kinds of other adware sites and that kind of thing. I'm on my PS5. I'm on my PS4 Pro right now, so I don't have the ability to block them. If I was on PC, I'd do it myself. So if there's any mods that happen to be in the chat, please block Catherine Manning. If not, then I'll come back and block them on the replay. Damn it. I was talking about my concerns about, I see. I have no idea what's going on in China. The thing about it is, I think Fanatec was lying about that. Here's the thing. My CSL DD was supposed to ship November 29th. Only 3 days before that, on Thanksgiving, Fanatec sends me an email and say that ship has been delayed and won't be here until January 3rd. You didn't find that out 3 days before, you didn't just find that out 3 days before my CSL DD was supposed to ship. If there really was a ship that was delayed from China, you knew that weeks ago. And you're only telling me this 3 days before my unit is supposed to ship? So, that's another topic for another time. So coming back to this situation with with GT Sport. You know, I was talking about how Sony talked about how they're going to have to leave the PS4 behind, but yet all these games this coming out, you know, Sony makes it look like these games are next-gen games and they're only going to be on the PS5. And then at the witching hour, we end up finding out that these games are also going to be on PS4 as well. So we already know that GT7 is going to be on the PS4 as well. So one of the things I'm wondering about is the PS4 version of GT7 going to get VR support? If it does get VR support, because since PSVR 2 is not coming out until holiday of 2022, the PS5 version of GT7 more than likely is not going to get any sort of VR support. If the PS4 version of GT7 gets VR support, it's going to be exactly what we're getting here on GT7. If the PS4 version of it gets VR support, we're going to get exactly what we're getting right here on GT Sport, one-on-one versus the AI or time trials. Because I don't see how a supposed next-gen game is going to be able to perform better on older hardware. So there's, you know, so unless Sony takes the handcuffs off and they allow VR multiplayer on the PS4 Pro, don't expect anything better than what you're currently getting on GT Sport as far as VR support goes. There's going to be time trial. There's going to be one-on-one versus the AI. But when PSVR 2 comes out, in the PS5 version, if it gets the same kind of VR support that we are currently getting right now on GT Sport, no VR multiplayer, no ability to race against a full grid in a single player race, and all we get is one-on-one versus the AI or time trials, I may strongly consider selling my PS5 then. I will strongly, because, you know, it's a safe guess that I'm already going to have the PSVR 2 headset. I would probably sell the PSVR 2 headset, and there's a strong possibility that I would sell the PS5 right now, because as it is, Sony already has me frustrated. They act like they scared to talk about PSVR 2. They act like they're scared they're going to piss off the flat screeners. And that's a little bit frustrating in itself, because last year Sony did a state of play, and like half of the state of play that they did, they showed VR games, and the flat screeners went bonkers. They went absolutely berserk. After that, Sony did not do any more state of plays that showed a significant amount of VR games. So what they did was, on every state of play, the first game that they showed would be a VR game, get it out of the way, and then show flat screen stuff after that, whether it would be indie games or any major games coming up. And Sony has barely talked about PSVR 2 ever since. And I get the impression that they act like they're scared that if they even utter the words PSVR 2, that people are going to run the Xbox or some shit. They act like they scared. And you know, we gave our money to Sony just like the flat screeners did. You could make a case that we gave more money to Sony than the flat screeners did, because we bought the console, we bought the headset, and we bought the games to go with it. So you could make a case that we spent more money than the flat screeners. A lot of the flat screeners have their one or two games that they want to play, like the Maddens or the NBA 2Ks or whatever, and then that's it. They don't buy much more than that. Us VR people, we bought a lot of games. Sony made $2 billion off of PSVR alone. Will Clark, Horizon was in development before the PS5 was in dev kit form. So GT7 both been in development for 3 years. PS5 is being made with VR in mind. PS4 was not. Think about that. I have totally thought about that. My problem with that is Sony, like in the case of Horizon, Horizon Forbidden West, they originally advertised the game like it was going to be a PS5 only game, and then the game came out, and then they finally announced that the game was going to be on PS4 as well, and that sent everybody into an uproar. God of War Ragnarok, they originally displayed that game as if it was going to be a PS5 game when they finally revealed that it was going to be a PS4 game as well, and everybody went nuts. You had who was it over at Sony Santa Monica? Corey Barlog. He had to come out and damage control. He had to like come out and tell everybody, "Don't get mad at Sony. This was my decision." Blah blah blah. So by that time, it became obvious that Sony. It became obvious now. When it became obvious that Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok were going to get PS4 versions, and Miles Morales got a PS4 version. So, see, and this is the other thing Sony did where they weren't completely transparent. When Miles Morales got PS4s, when they announced that Miles Morales was going to be on the PS4 as well, Sony tried to make it sound like we want everybody to have a chance to play this game, and because there's not enough PS5s out there for us to make this a PS5 only game, we have to put it on the PS4 so everybody has a chance to play it. Well, by now, what? They've got over 15 million PlayStation 5s out there in the wild now, but yet we're still seeing games coming out on PS4 as well as PS5. So from a flat screen perspective, I could care less about that. I just don't care about Sony's lack of transparency about that. From the VR standpoint, that's a concern because we know that the PS5 is going to have way more power than the PS4. Because as it stands, the PS4 Pro is a wasted console. We have not seen, in my opinion, near what this console can do because Sony wanted parity across the board and did not want the PS4 having an advantage over the PS4. You know, so I think there's we got another one that could, if someone's in the chat still watching this, if any moderators are in the chat, can they please ban Brandis Kyle, whoever that is? We got another bot in here trying to advertise some bullshit. And that made me lose my train of thought. I know I was talking about Sony's transparency, talking about these games. What I was going to say was that because the PS4 Pro was a wasted console, and we didn't get the full potential of this console because Sony wanted parity across the board, and they handcuffed the PS4 and wouldn't let this console do what it's capable of doing because they wanted it on par with the regular PS4. I'd imagine there was a good amount of games that could do 60 frames per second on the PS4 Pro, but were regulated to only doing 30 frames per second. So people who bought the PS4 Pro, the only advantage they had over the PS4 was cosmetics. You know, they got the patch that made the game look prettier. Performance-wise, they really didn't get much of an advantage. So with that being said, if they turn around and do the same thing to the PS5 and they gimp the PS5, PSVR 2, if they gimp that to keep it on the same level with the PS4, then yeah, there's a pretty good chance I would sell my PS5. Because I'm not about to invest thousands, hundreds, or even a couple $1,000s into a console that's got 5 times the power of the standard PS4. You know, we talking 2 teraflops versus 10, and then they gimp it and handcuff it and bring it down to the level of the PS4. So all that being said, right now my PS5 is useless. And even when PSVR 2 comes out, there's no guarantee that we're going to get the full potential out of it because we don't know if Sony's going to decide to leave the PS4 behind or not. In my opinion, they have to. Because what's the sense of coming out with the Orb controllers and all this other stuff if they're going to, keep the, if they're going to have parity with the PS4? So, that's kind of where I stand in a nutshell. It seems like I wanted to say more than that, but that's kind of really all I can think of right now. But I will say shortly after this stream is over, I'm going to jump back over to the PC and I'm going to jump back on a set of Corsa Competizione. And there's some more cars that, I want to play with the BMW some more. Will Clark, I don't know, I don't know if you're saying I don't know or didn't know. There's a huge difference going from miles on PS4 and PS5. This isn't like the PS4 to PS4 Pro. From a VR standpoint, I can't really speak on that because I bought my PS4 Pro before. No, actually, the if my memory serves me right, PSVR launched in October of 2016, and PS4 Pro launched the next month. And I bought my PS4 Pro day one, but I had sold my PS4 like 2 weeks before I got my PS4 Pro. And then as far as PSVR goes, I bought it day one, but it was a Christmas gift to my son, so it never got opened until Christmas. All that being said, the only time I experienced PSVR on the standard PS4 was when they were doing demos at Best Buy, and I went there to check it out. And it was a noticeable downgrade from the flat screen versions of games. But there's this generation, remember when they wanted you to play VR on the PS4 Pro, that shit was advertised together. Devastator, what's up? So through these years, there has been a lot of games that were VR games that were suspect on the PS4, and people thought that a PS4 Pro patch was going to make the game look better and make the game run better. But there was some cases where some VR games got the PS4 Pro patch, and it was worse. The aliasing was horrible on some of those games, and it didn't look any better. So I cannot speak, as far as the VR part goes, I can't speak of the jump from PS4 to PS4 Pro. I can only kind of really go on what's been said. In some cases, from what people have said, it's been a minimal jump or no jump at all. So, as far as PSVR 2 goes, this should not be a case of a PS5 patch for a current PSVR game, because we know that we've got, the Move controllers are obsolete, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of developers had stayed away from PSVR, because the controls for the Move controllers, they don't have thumbsticks, so some people stayed away from that. But in the case of the PS5, the Orb controllers have thumbsticks. The PS5 has enough power. Then, in my opinion, there is no game that should be on PC. There is no games this on PC, in my opinion, that shouldn't be able to make it over to PSVR 2. But we've already got a situation that I'm already scratching my head about, and that's Pavlov. So according to the developer of Pavlov, on PSVR 2, they're going to get the Quest version Pavlov, and not the PC version of Pavlov, because I guess he said the improvements that he's going to be making to Pavlov on PC is bleeding edge, and he basically stopped short of saying that the PS5 is not going to be able to handle it. So I don't, so that kind of supports my theory about how much graphical power that the PS5 has. People have tried to compare the PS5 to a 3080. I think they are out of their fucking mind. I think the PS5 has the graphical power of a 2060. I've done comparisons with the naked eye. I've done comparisons on Rainbow Six Siege as well as Star Wars Squadrons. I looked at the PS4 version, the PS5 version, and the PC versions, and these were all, and both of these games supposedly got next-gen patches, and the PC still clearly looked better with the naked eye. I didn't have to do any kind of side-by-side comparisons, and this is when my PC had a 2070. So there's no way that, in my opinion, there's no way a game on the PS5 is going to look better than the PC version on my PC with the 3070 that I have. So, Will Clark, the PSVR games aren't going to get patched for PS5. Sorry, man, maybe 10 or 20, that's it. Yeah. I don't want them to get patched because I don't want to be stuck on the PS4 games. I want PS5 games. I want PSVR 2 games, not PSVR games that's been patched for the PS5. I don't want that. Because that's what I'm trying to say. That if we end up getting shit like that, then I might sell my PS5. Because they're still going to be bringing us down to the PS4 level. So, and something else before I get ready to go is that there are some people out there right now that have no interest in VR. But as soon as PSVR 2 comes out, they're going to jump on PSVR 2, especially if Grand Theft Auto is on PSVR 2. They're going to jump on PSVR 2 and they're going to act like, oh, I've always been interested in VR. It's just, I was just waiting for the right game to come along. Bullshit. Because PSVR 2, in my opinion, is not going to give you any more than what you're already getting on PC. In my opinion, the only advantage PSVR 2 is going to give you is that the user base is going to be much, much bigger. And what that is ultimately going to do is, let's say over the years, let's say Sony sells 20 million PSVR 2 headsets. That's enough for somebody like Activision to take a chance and put Call of Duty in VR. While we're at it, now we can do the PC version so we can get that extra revenue. The way things are right now, they would only be capable of doing it on PC because the PS4 cannot handle it. And they would actually lose money if they would make a Call of Duty in VR and it would only be on PC. So that's the only advantage that PSVR is going to give to VR, is that the user base is going to be so big that AAA publishers can't turn away from that money, because that's going to be extra revenue for them. And then us in the PC community will benefit from it. So the only advantage that's going to help is Activision makes Call of Duty in VR for PSVR 2, and then they decide to go ahead and make it on PC as well, because now they can collect, side money off of PC. Their main money will come off of PSVR 2, and PC will be the side money. That's the only advantage that PSVR 2 is going to give to VR as a whole. From a technological standpoint, I don't think PSVR 2 is going to be able to give the PC people anything that, putting it this way, there isn't going to be any game on PSVR 2 that can't run on PC. Anything that's going to be on PSVR 2 is going to be able to run on PC, and it's probably going to look better and run better on PC. Flat out. But it doesn't change the fact that I still want PSVR 2 games and not PSVR games that's been patched for the PS5. Because we're still going to be stuck to the same limitations that we currently have right now of the current PSVR. So, so I think I got everything out of the way. I mean, I did title this GT Sport. So I think maybe I can do one session in VR against the AI. It's only going to be 2 laps. So for those who are not big racing fans, the race will be over in a quick second. But don't let that stop you from, carrying on the conversation, because I can still talk while I'm driving. So I'll just do 1 or 2 laps for the people that did come here to see a little bit of GT Sport. We need to go to arcade. I really did not. Damn, Will Clark, I just lost your comment when I went into VR. So, and I think I'm going to use the BMW M3 because, that's just hype for the BMW M4 GT3. I mean, the comment is still there. Once I come out of VR, I'll be able to see your comment on the sidebar. So, if you want to hang on a couple of minutes, I'll come back and check that comment out after I come out of VR and respond to it, unless you want to type it again, and it'll come back and it'll pop up in a few seconds. But as I was saying, I wanted to use this BMW M6 because the M4 was just the real life car was unveiled earlier this year, and there was no comment. It was a comment you already responded to. Okay, so the real life M4 GT3 was revealed earlier this year, and it was supposed to compete at Nürburgring Nordschleife, but the car got damaged during testing, so they postponed the debut of the car until February. So the car is going to make its debut at the 24 Hours of Rolex at Daytona in February. And I'm at my Thrustmaster. At the lawn chair, at the coffee table. Oh my God, the force feedback on this, it's like it might as well not even have any force feedback. Compared to the Podium DD1 that I was using, the force feedback on this Thrustmaster is almost non-existent. Smack that wall. You know what? When I just smacked that wall, that just reminded me of something else that I wanted to say about this game, about the ghosting. And I'll say that after I finish this lap, because after I finish this lap, it'll be over. I should have hit the brakes on that, but I thought the car would maintain this grip and I would be able to hold my line, but I should have hit the brakes. All right, let me come on out of VR so I can go back and see all the comments. Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Last thing I want to say, and it is about this game in particular. I saw one of the things that I used to like about this game is now one of the things I don't like about this game. In the past, I've talked about how dirty people are on Forza. I've talked about how people knocked me off the road. People who were in like 15th place. Just because they didn't want to be last, they knocked me off the road when I tried to pass them. Just because they didn't want to be last. And so people on Forza are the dirtiest people. They're the dirtiest racers I've ever seen. I don't know if they're dirty because the Forza community is dirty, or just because the Xbox community itself can be toxic. But in any case, after that, I got rid of Forza. So, coming back to this game, one of the things that I liked about this game was that when somebody starts driving erratic on this game, their car will turn into a ghost. So, you can avoid the carnage and drive right through them. I mean, contact still happens. Contact still happens in this game. But if a car is in front of you and it starts to go into a slide, it will turn into a ghost and you can drive right through them. I used to like that. Now I don't like it. Because if you're in second place and you're pursuing the first place car, now one of your strategies can be you put enough pressure on him, and if he goes into a slide, you can drive right through his ghost and come into first place. That's not going to happen on a set of Corsa Competizione. If a car goes into a slide on a set of Corsa Competizione, you got to find a way to get around them and avoid getting caught up in that slide. Because if you don't, both of you going to be going to slam into the wall. So I don't like that ghosting shit. with GT7 when it comes out, I hope they give you the option to turn off the ghost in actual races. And I doubt that they'll do it, but I hope that they add damage to the cars in GT7. I think it might have been JD Maxx who had told me that Polyphony Digital didn't allow damage in GT Sport because the manufacturers didn't want to see their cars wrecked. Whereas shit, on a set of Corsa Competizione, you smack that wall hard enough, your windshield will be cracked, that the hood will be folded, the light will be busted. I think Forza Motorsports 2 was one of the best games that had damage that I had ever played. If you smacked the wall, not only would you see the cosmetic damage, it would affect the car as well. I've had races on Forza Motorsports 2 where I heard a loud boom, and it turned out that the motor blew. I heard a loud boom and seen smoke coming out the back of the car. So the motor, I had blew the motor. So, any case, so I think that's all I got. And Devastator saying, "What's up, guys?" So I think right now I'm in a holding pattern right now with the PS5. I'm not getting any use out of it, but I can't get rid of it. Because what happens when PSVR 2 comes out and it turns out to be the bomb, which I think it's going to be good. It's definitely going to be much, much better than what we're getting right now. I don't want to be in a position where we're still dealing with scalpers, semiconductor shortages, and whatever other shortage or crisis that the government wants to fabricate. I don't want to find myself in a position where it's going to be hard to get a PS5. I got to keep it. So, I mean, honestly, the last 2 times that I used my PS5 last night to watch YouTube. And I used it like 2 weeks before that to watch YouTube. The last time I believe that I played a game on my PS5 was 2 or 3 months ago when I played MLB The Show against Rome Rush, which, you can go back and check that out if you want. But that's it. I only tried PSVR. I only tried PSVR once on this PS5. Everybody talked about how games load faster and this and that and that and this, but everybody was evasive. In the beginning, people were being evasive, talking about if games looked any better, if games ran any better. So I hooked my PSVR up to my PS5 and I played Firewall, and the same problems that were on the PS4 were on the PS5. The aim controller was drifting. There was blur. And so at that point, I didn't see any point in keeping my PSVR on my PS5 if I'm still faced with the same limitations and the same problems as the PS4. So I put my PSVR back on my PS4 Pro, which at that point it pretty much rendered my PS5 useless. The only full game that I've played on my PS5 was Call of Duty Cold War, because I'm not gonna lie, those cutscenes were arguably some of the best looking cutscenes I've ever seen on any game. But once the game went into actual gameplay, then the characters looked video gamey. Their hair looked like plastic. So it was really only the cutscenes that was like really mind blowing. I did complete that story, and I really didn't care for it. Perseus will wipe you, but we never really saw Perseus. They talked about Perseus and talked about Perseus and talked about Perseus, but we never really saw him. So all that shit that you went through in the game to chase after a ghost, a person that you never really saw, I started out playing Assassin's Creed. Was it Vanguard or whichever one it was? Whatever that most recent Assassin's Creed was that got the PS5 patch. I played a little bit of that. Miles Morales, I really didn't touch that because my son was playing it, so I was sitting back watching him play it. And I think my son probably got through. I think my son probably played about 75% of Miles Morales, and that was it. He hasn't come back to it yet. I haven't tried to play it because I don't want to play through the same stuff that I already saw. Only played a couple of games on MLB The Show, so that ended up being a waste of money. And the only other game that I finished on PS5 was Ratchet and Clank. That was worth the money. That game looked amazing. I liked the story. And I think it was a game for people of all ages. So, out of the games that I bought for my PS5, Ratchet and Clank and Cold War were the only campaigns that I finished. Everything else was a waste of money. And now that I've finished the campaign on Call of Duty Cold War, I have no interest in playing the game anymore because I never really cared for their multiplayer. It's been the same shit over and over and over again for basically the last 2 decades. So, just another angle of how I'm pointing out of how my PS5 has been virtually useless. So, now I think I can tell you guys that I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I'm going to grab a bite to eat and then decide whether or not I'm going to come right back. Support Gaming, what's up? And from there, I'm going to decide whether or not that I'm going to jump back on PC and do some ACC. Because, again, I want to jump in there and monkey with the M4 GT3 again. So, this was more or less a podcast. It wasn't meant to be negative because that title doesn't exactly look positive. It wasn't meant to be clickbait. This podcast, as I like to call it, wasn't meant to be positive. It wasn't meant to be a rant. I was just being brutally honest. I mean, every day when I come home from work and I turn on the lights in my living room, the first thing I do is walk over to my PC and hit the power button to turn on my PC. And then I look at that PS5 and I'm like, there's nothing that I'm interested in playing on it. And I look at it and I'm like, God damn, if it wasn't for PSVR 2, this shit would be on eBay right now. I'd be scalping the shit out of somebody on with it. So, I guess, again, until PSVR 2 comes out, I'm basically stuck with a 10 teraflop paperweight. So, now I think I can go ahead and end it on that note. Thanks everybody for watching. Definitely appreciate it. And for those who want to see ACC, I would say be ready to check me out here in about maybe 45 minutes or so. And I'll be back to again monkey with the BMW M4 GT3 and do some racing on ACC. So, with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. You guys know the line. Wakanda forever. Long live the king. And deuces. We will see you all shortly. Oh yeah, ACC Support Gaming. We'll see you shortly, folks.